And welcome to the Weekday Warriors of Wrestling for Friday, January 8th, I think. Yeah, that's correct. I'm Eric, I'm Eric Clancy. I'm joined by Patrick Kelly. We're talking AEW. We're talking NXT. We're talking New Japan. We're talking New Japan stars going to WWE. I guess we'll go with that first, and then we can go into the rest of it. Jay White's contract expires at the end of January, and WWE is making a strong play for him. Um, Pat, do you have any gut reaction of what you think White's move might be?
Um, God, well, he's got options. He's got plenty of options. My gut tells me that he would probably go to WWE because I think there's more. And this is going to sound crazy, but I think there's more room for him over there because AEW, I feel like, is with the amount of TV time that they have, I feel like that they're kind of bloated at the moment as far as their roster goes, and I don't know if they would have room for him. Whereas WWE, I mean, on NXT, they could absolutely use him to help fill out the show and help generate some intrigue on honestly, a WWE program that's suffering a little bit. So I think he could inject some fresh blood into the mix.
Well, I mean, so number one, I think there's always room for a top guy. And Jay White's a top guy. There's if WWE is making a play for him, I think that's a bad move for him personally, but we all know where my biases lie, so it is what it is. I think if he goes to AEW, he's immediately in a program with Moxley at some point, and that's a big money program, and that's a possible headlining. Like, it's not like Jay White, if he goes to AEW, is going to struggle to get on a pay-per-view. He's like, if they have to knock the Revival down, if they have to knock Miro down, if they have to knock those guys down, but like Jay White's going to be on pay-per-views. He's going to be a major star over there. WWE, personally, I think he's a top guy wherever he goes, and I think he's incredibly valuable because he's like 28 years old. He's like 6'1". He's in great shape. He's a great talker. He's a great worker. He's great psychology. He's like, I don't know. To me, there's very few weaknesses to Jay White's game. I mean, maybe he's not American, so like that dings him. There's very few like weaknesses in Jay White's game. But I'll be honest. I'm shocked that his contract is ending because I thought New Japan stopped doing this every year stuff, or maybe this was just when his extended contract expired. But like, wouldn't you want? Why are you letting him hit the market? Is I guess what my point is.
Yeah, and it's a really bad time to let him go because at the moment, and granted, given the way Wrestle Kingdom turned out, I guess you could say Ibushi already beat him, but it's like, who are the top heels that Ibushi is going to be working with? There's not a whole lot of options, I feel like.
I mean, he could work with Evil, but Evil sucks. No, but honestly, like your choices for Ibushi to work with. I mean, he could always work with Naito again, of course, but we just saw that, so they're not going to want to do that. Obviously, there's a big Okada match down the road. Like, yes, you can work with Tanahashi. Once again, none of these guys are strong heels. White's like really the only strong heel they have on the main event side of the roster. Like I said, maybe Evil. Like Kenta perhaps, but like Kenta's been slated in that kind of like US title level, so like Jay White's very valuable to them. He's also a young lion. He's been through their system, so the fact that they're going to lose a young lion, like, it's not like Kenny Omega or AJ or Gallows and Anderson. Oh, I mean, I guess Anderson came up through there, but like for the most part, those guys weren't young lions. Like the Young Bucks weren't young lions. The Jay White's a guy that went through their system. Jay White's a guy that they were using to make a bigger mark in Oceania and the Australian and New Zealand market. To me, it's just like I was always like incredulous when like every year these contracts would come up and like WWE would be like, okay, I guess we'll take the top guys you have and then just get rid of them. And thankfully, the 1 year when AEW was formed, all the Bullet Club guys went to AEW and formed AEW. But now there's even more competition. So there's they have a partnership with Ring of Honor, so I can't imagine that they would steal him. But AEW definitely would. WWE is making a play, so it like honestly, there's very few people who have turned down WWE money when they bring it.
Oh yeah.
Nobody has. Like Okada's never been allowed to hit the market, and from what Okada said, he's like New Japan for life. But I like whenever WWE comes knocking, nobody except for the guys that went to AEW, nobody says no.
Mm-hmm.
So
well, I think that's the WWE branding, where they are, whether we like it or not, and whatever we think about their product, they are the largest wrestling company in the world, and there is that kind of, it's that old saying with New York: you make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. Well, if you make it in WWE, you can make it anywhere, and I think that's the mindset that a lot of performers have. And it's not until they get there that they see it's like, oh, I don't fit into this creative system at all whatsoever. And some people do well in the creative system. It's just depends on who they want to push, who they like, and whoever connects with Vince, really. But it's I think that Jay White, it's a likely situation that if he's on the market, he'll probably go to WWE.
Yeah, and he'll get big money, and he deserves big money. And I wonder if, New Japan lowballed Kenny Omega, they lowballed the Young Bucks, which, let's be honest, that hampered New Japan's expansion into the U.S. Like, they don't really draw that well in the U.S. If they have a show and it's like Okada, Tanahashi, and all these people, it will do well to a point, but it's not the same as having the Bucks and Omega and Cody and all the guys that formed AEW. They were American stars, and they did really well in this market. So New Japan blew it in that instance. So I hope they don't, for their sake, I hope they don't lowball Jay White, because he's an important piece of their plans. He's a guy that they can always rely on to be both a top heel, which they don't have a ton of, and to give them great main event matches. So, it just keeps happening to them. Eventually Will Ospreay is going to get the call, and they're going to be like, well, I guess we'll lowball him too. And it's just, they can keep these guys if they make a strong play for them. But, I don't know if they're going to do that. We talk about the guys that went to WWE from New Japan, and people say, well, it's not that bad. Some people did well. No, one person has done well. AJ Styles has done well. That's it.
What, Nakamura didn't do well?
Yeah. He's done fantastic. Nakamura, Gallows, and Anderson. Who else have they taken? I can't even remember.
Kushida.
Right now. Kushida, yeah. Kushida is what
Kenta?
he is. Yeah, Kent. Yeah, well, no, Kenta went from Noah.
That's right.
But to a degree, Finn Balor, but once he got injured and came back, it was never the same. So, they don't do well. They don't do well with New Japan talent. So yeah,
the highlight which you were talking about earlier about New Japan not drawing well in the U.S., I think the real impact of losing guys like Omega and Cody and the Bucks can be seen in that WrestleMania weekend show, where that show in Madison Square Garden sold out because people thought Kenny, Cody, and the Bucks were going to be there, and then it turned out that they weren't. And while it was still a good show, I think that really hampered what that show could have been. Had those guys been available and had they been on the card, because I think that show sold out on the promise or on the thought that those guys were going to be there.
Well, it sold out, yes, to a point. People wanted to see Okada. People wanted to see, Tanahashi and Naito and stuff. So they did want to see the top stars in New Japan. But yes, those other stars definitely helped out. Nobody was coming for Matt Taven. Let's put it that way. That was and I didn't think, I was at that show. I didn't think the Ring of Honor portion of the show was as bad as everybody says it was. I was super drunk, by the way, during that show, so that could have colored my opinion. But but I mean, the New Japan side was clearly better. So we'll see. But I mean, Jay White, will be the hottest free agent in wrestling. We'll see. We'll see what he does. Speaking of Jay White, Patrick, Wrestle Kingdom 15 happened last weekend. It was in front of, I don't know, 10,000 people a night. Was that about it?
I heard it was around 5,000 each night. So
that's what you said, but didn't they say like over like 16,000 people each over the course of 2 nights or something? So I thought it might be more than 5,000. Let's see what they have. Night 1 was 12,000. Night 2 was almost 8,000.
Wow. Okay.
So how about you take your BS lies and understand the reality of this? No, I'm kidding.
Couple it.
Yeah. So we had night 1, night 2. Before we go into this show, and we will cover AEW and NXT in a bit, but did you have a preference between night 1 and night 2?
Well, I gotta be honest, this year's event, I thought last year's did a much better job of being a 2-night event where night 1 built into night 2 expertly well, and there was the storyline with the double dash for the gold, and Liger's retirement, and the situation with the US title. There were a bunch of things that would like be set up on night 1 and then pay off in night 2 really well, and I don't think that was done as well here. This one, the 2 shows felt a lot more separate, mainly because I think Ibushi, if I'm not mistaken, Ibushi and the guys in the 4-way were the only ones that worked both nights.
Hiromu did as well.
Hiromu did too. Yes, you're right. But generally, it just kind of felt like 2 separate shows, and you kind of trim the fat on both shows, and maybe take the last 2 matches in night 1, add them to night 2. You'd probably have one really good self-contained. So basically, my point is, I felt like last year's event did a really good job of being a 2-night event. This one, I kind of felt like you could have shortened it down to 1, and you would have been fine.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to disagree with you. I think I'm going to agree with you in the fact that last year was better as far as building night 1 to night 2 and making them seem more cohesive. But I thought they did fine this year. I think I'll actually say that I like night 1 better than night 2. I liked the Rambo for what it was. Yeah, we'll go through these and I'll give my reason later. I like the Rambo for what it was. I mean, Chase Owens sucks, but Toru Yano is great, and Bad Luck Fale is I always think has value as a giant ass kicker. I thought
you and I are the only ones that like him, by the way, because he's one of those guys that the internet kind of writes off as a shitty big guy, and I'm like, I like him. He's a big thug. He does his job.
Yeah, no, he's like a giant like dude, and like, yeah, I mean, his matches like great most of the time. Yeah, but he never goes past 8 minutes, and when he does, it's against like Okada. When he had that great match against Okada at it wasn't Genesis, was it? It was the 2017. It was like what's in between Dominion and Genesis? What's the May one?
I was gonna Wrestling Dontaku.
Yeah, it was that one. Yeah, that was a good match. But that was during Okada's like string of like, I'm having the greatest matches ever every week thing that he did. So yeah, I like the Rambo for what it was. I really liked Takahashi and ELP in the opener. I thought it was a good opener. I liked Takahashi parodying ELP's taunts. Yeah, I thought that was a good opening match. The tag team match was fine. It was what it was. I was decently impressed with Kojima and Kenta because I didn't expect that to be super good because Kojima's like 100, but I thought it was good. And I also like that, like, so one thing New Japan generally does pretty well. Sometimes they don't, and they have people go insane, but like they have like pretty well established power levels. So like if somebody sucks and they go against Okada, they're gonna get like killed. Like Kenta, like he didn't need like 400 like psycho knees and different things to beat Kojima. He beat him he beat him pretty easily. And I like when they do that because I'm like, oh, okay, this is like I can like logically follow these and like it makes sense when one guy beats the other as opposed to you beat me last time and now I'm going to beat you this time. So
Yeah.
I like that. So the next match was
Speaking of that, before we get into the next match, what did you think about Jon Moxley basically announcing his return to New Japan?
I was confused as hell as how he's going to do it.
It'll be interesting to see how it goes.
I mean, they have a state of emergency, which like they announced, or like they're locking down everything before that. And before that, it was even hard because you had to quarantine for 2 weeks, and you can't do that because of Dynamite. So unless he like filmed something in between when he was off for all that time, in between Winter is Coming and Wednesday, I don't know how he's going to do this. I was confused to answer your question. Is how I felt.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they pull it off. If they can pull it off, who knows?
Yeah. So Tanahashi took on the Great Okan, who, as many of you will note, I had no idea who that was last week, and we had people in the comments explaining who he was to me, including saying that he sucked. I don't think he sucks. So I just saw this one match, so like maybe I'm totally wrong, but I did like how he like went for the legs and he was like going down on his like, he was going like I don't know, Greco-Roman or freestyle or what you would call it, but he like had a very like mat-based style, so I thought that was good. But like I don't like Tanahashi matches normally. I generally don't enjoy them. And this was fine. So, like, it was better than the Jay White Tanahashi match from a few years ago. So, like, I thought that was good.
Yeah, this match, I thought it was okay. I guess my biggest issue with it, on the subject of Tanahashi matches, to me, it's not that I dislike a lot of his matches. It's that unless he's working with someone great, like a Zack Sabre Jr. or an Okada, it's going to be just a Tanahashi match where it's just the same thing. He's the John Cena of Japan.
He is. He's always overcoming odds and shit. I mean, He looks fantastic. His, like, abs are in, like, amazing shape. He, like, for, like, what is he, like, 43, 44?
Is he that old? But let me see. Yeah, he's been around a long time, so.
He's 44, yeah.
Yeah, wow. I mean, that's impressive, and he's an amazing athlete and everything, but it's like, he's not as, like, Okada, and, we talked about his match with Bad Luck Fale, but Okada can work with a big guy and it'll be a very different kind of match, and exciting in its own way. Tanahashi, whenever he works with somebody, it just kind of turns into a Tanahashi match. Thankfully, this one didn't have 87 high fly flows, but other than that, it was just kind of a typical Tanahashi match.
Yeah, you always have to do 900 high fly flows, and his weird 1950s rock and roll based offense for some reason. Twist and shout. The next match I thought was the match of the weekend. I didn't think it was close. Okada and Will Ospreay, I thought, told a tremendous story. Like we talked last week, I hadn't seen New Japan since Dominion. I understood everything about this story from this match, which to me is the mark of great wrestlers. Will Ospreay worked really well as a heel. I was surprised. I've never seen him work as a heel because I didn't see the G1 this year because I have a newborn, or I have a 6-month-old now, but I had a newborn then, so I did not have the time that I had in years past. I thought it was good. Like Okada slapping him at the end. I thought I bought all the emotion into this. I thought it was by far the best match of the weekend.
Absolutely. I thought the match was tremendous. It was far and away my favorite match of night one, and then when night two happened, I'm like, nah, I still think that was the best match. And I kind of expected that to be the case when you look at the talents involved and the fact that it did have a pretty good storyline built into it. I was like, yeah, Okada and Ospreay are going to steal the show, and they absolutely did.
Yeah. And that was like, I mean, who did God, who did Ospreay had a great opener last year that almost stole the show. What was it like? Was it against? It wasn't Cobb. Was it Kenta? I can't remember.
Last year, let me pull up that card. That was. Da, 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 da.
Oh, I'm getting it. Don't worry.
Okay, he went up against Takahashi for the title.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Wait, is that what I'm thinking of? Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, because he faced Hiromu, and then Hiromu went on to do Liger's retirement match the next night.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So he stole the show last night. Last year. The Okada Ibushi one was great. I like the best match, but like I'm saying, he like pretty much steals it every year. So like, yeah. And then we had Ibushi and Naito. It was good. It was an Ibushi and Naito match. Like, thankfully there was less like I'm gonna drop you on your neck and kill you stuff than they normally do. But it was good. I did not like it as much as I liked Ibushi and Jay White the next night, which I thought had more emotion and a better story. And like, let's just skip over to Ibushi and Jay White so we can talk about that before we go to the rest of the night too. But like Jay White just like Kota Ibushi becoming Superman and just overcoming Jay White, and Jay White offering just pin me was like so awesome.
Yeah, it was, and it's this weird dichotomy. And again, like the 2-night event format, kind of like maybe undercut Ibushi a little bit, where it would have been nice to see him win the titles on night 2. So I think I would have preferred it if they had worked it in a way where Jay White was going in as the champion, and then Ibushi had just beat him on night 2. Maybe make night 1 Ibushi versus Naito for the contendership to get to Jay White. That probably would have worked better because he won the titles the night before, so it kind of felt like we got our climax before an entire night's worth of show happened. So
yeah,
that was a little odd. But I did think Jay White and Ibushi had a tremendous match in night 2, and the best of the 2 main events.
Yeah, I think with with Jay White coming out at the end of night 1 in the suit and everything and saying, he's like, now you've got me and you've been beaten up, and like that played into the story for me. But yeah, I you're not wrong. All right, next night we had Toru Yano won the Provisional King of Pro Wrestling 2021 trophy, which is great. Yeah. I mean, fair play. A guy that respects the rules as much as Toru Yano should be the king of pro wrestling, I think.
I think so too.
Yeah. We had Suzuki-gun against Taguchi and Master Wato, which, Patrick, I'll be honest, I didn't pay attention a lot to this match. I was like zoning out, so maybe it was good.
It was another tag match. It was another tag match with a little bit of Taguchi goofiness, but it was just a tag match basically.
Yeah. Then we had Shingo Takagi beating Jeff Cobb to retain the Never Openweight title. Title I wish did not exist, but it does, so we have to deal with it. But the match was good. It was nice. It was hard hitting. I don't love Takagi as much as everybody else does, and I think Jeff Cobb is always like, I don't know if he's ever been as good as when he was Matanza, but and I'm always hoping he gets there, but I never feel like he does. I thought this was good. I thought a real good match.
This is probably my second favorite match of the weekend behind Ospreay and Okada. I love
Interesting.
I love a good slugfest, and I felt like these two guys did that. And I'm with you on Jeff Cobb. Like, as Matanza, he played a character that suited him and his abilities, and I thought he played it very well. Outside of that, though, he's just kind of like a guy that just wrestles, and
it feels like he should be better than he is, right?
Yeah, and this is probably the first time since Lucha Underground that I've seen like a little bit of fire and a little bit of magic out of him.
Yeah. I agree. If you take this out of it and Lucha Underground out of it, there's never been a Jeff Cobb match where I'm like, whoa, yeah. Like I watched all of the G1 last year, not the 2019, not the 2020, but the 2019 one, which I believe was his first G1, and I didn't think he did very well.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with that.
I remember guys that have been new to it, like maybe it was the Yeah, I think it was the 2018 Hangman was in it. It might have been Hangman's first G1, and he was great, like, throughout the whole thing. And, like, 2019, like, Cobb just, like, I don't know. He just did not impress me throughout it. But yeah, here was good. So I don't know. Maybe we'll see more Jeff Cobb. We had Evil and Sonata. Sonata won because I don't know. There's a god, I guess, because Evil is terrible, but is somehow a former IWGP champion, and Sonata has won and will go on to challenge Kota Ibushi, which I think as a G1 final rematch is good. I mean, Gato is such a meticulous booker, and he's such a smart guy that I wonder if, like, what he did with Evil was like it was with Naito or Okada or all these decisions, or Jay White, all these decisions that everybody was like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? And then, like, a year or 6 months or 2 years later, people are like, oh, this was brilliant. I'm hoping Evil was one of those decisions, but I don't know.
Well, it kind of worked out here because now Sonata can say he beat a former IWGP World Heavyweight Champion in addition to beating his former LIJ partner. So maybe that added a little sizzle to Sonata's win in the long run.
I guess, but, like, so New Japan does something really well. It does what WWE used to do, which is being very protective of their world title. Like, everybody does not win the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship.
Right.
Everybody wins the WWE, one of the WWE World titles. Like Dolph Ziggler's had it, like Jinder Mahal's had it. Like, everybody's fucking won that thing. There's, like, everybody's a former world champion in that company. Like, nobody gives a shit. If New Japan was run by WWE, like, Hiroki Goto would be like a 2-time champion. Ishii would be like a 3-time champion. Like Taguchi would have won it for like a bit. Like, it would, like, I mean, they have no discipline with that shit. New Japan, like, really has discipline, and it's kind of sucks because, like, I feel like both Sonata and Evil can't be world champions because they don't allow that many people to win the title. So it's like, I don't know. I don't think Sonata's ever going to win it. So I think, like, it should have been Sonata, not Evil.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I will say this, though, for as much as we dog on Evil, and I think a lot more of this has to do with Sonata and Dick Togo's involvement in the match. They added a little bit of extra flavor and some of the other gimmicks like tables and everything. I think this is probably the best match I've ever seen Evil have, which, not a high bar, but I actually did enjoy this match.
Yeah, no, it was good. I mean, he's had some G1 matches where he's like, he's against like Okada or Ibushi or Naito or something, and they're good because, of course, they are against those guys. But, like, yeah, I hear you. Then we had the Junior Heavyweight Championship. Takahashi beat Ishimori, so it was kind of like Takahashi's, like, I don't want to say his redemption because he's been back for a while, but, like, Takahashi's like the dude in the Junior Heavyweight. He has been since 2017, since he beat Kushida. So, like, yeah, I thought that was good. I like Ishimori. I think Ishimori is great. Yeah, I like this match too. It was good.
Yeah, hell of a match, I thought. And it's almost like exactly how I pictured a match between these two going, and it worked. And it was nice to see the junior heavyweight title this high up on the card too.
It's always generally the semi-main.
Is it? I mean, well, I'm used to the Intercontinental title being.
Yeah, you're right. So it would go. The Intercontinental is underneath the World, and then the Junior, because like 20, like last year, it was the unification last year, so it didn't count. But the year before, what the fuck was it? Who was in that one? Was it like Tanahashi and Suzuki? I don't know. One year was like it was Tanahashi and whatchamacallit, Naito was the semi-main. But yeah, you're right.
Actually, I remember the first Wrestle Kingdom that I saw was Wrestle Kingdom 9, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the junior heavyweight title on that one was Taguchi versus Omega before Omega was a big deal. And that match was kind of like, it's there in the middle of the show, it's fine.
Yeah, no, I think for the past like 5 years or so, it's been like pretty high up. But yeah, no, this is good placement for it. Yeah, the shows were good. I mean, it's not it's obviously COVID wrestling, so it is what it is. It's not like the past like 3 or 4 years or 5 or 6 years or however long, where it's just like this keeps getting better and better and can never go down. Like obviously it wasn't as good as those shows.
No, of course not. But they did the absolute best that they could given the circumstances.
Yeah. Um. Okay, so let's chat. Let's chat Wednesday Night Wars. The big news coming out of I think either show, which not a lot of people watch these shows because an insurrection happened, but um, uh, there's I don't know, are we calling them the Bullet Club? Are we calling them the Elite, the Biz Cliz? What is it, Patrick?
I don't know, but that was a heck of an ending to the show. I thought I was like, okay, this is, and the whole Omega going the Impact thing. They've kind of been stringing us along. It's like, all right, when is something big going to happen? And yeah, Omega's going to be working the Impact pay-per-view, but we've been waiting to see, like, all right, how's that going to impact, pun intended, how's that going to impact Dynamite on a weekly basis? And now we finally got the Impact Tag Team Champions showing up on Dynamite, and it looks
finally.
Yeah, right. And now it looks like the Bucks are joining them, albeit as almost kind of a reluctant state. They seemed a little too unsure about it, but we've got something to sink our teeth into storyline wise, and I really like it.
Yeah, yes, finally this happened. This ending was fantastic. We don't have a ton of time to talk about the whole show. I thought it was a good show, but the ending I thought was great. Omega Phoenix was a really great match for the title, and then Moxley coming down made total sense. They set it up earlier. Moxley's like, I'm going to beat the shit out of Kenny, but I'm not going to ruin the title match because Phoenix is clawed for the title and I respect the title. So I'm going to wait till it's over and then I'm going to kick his ass. And he came down with a barbed wire bat, which was brilliant for multiple reasons. Number one, it fits Moxley's character. Number two, it enables Omega and his group to get that afterwards and keep people out of the ring. So, like, it being kind of almost a Chekhov's gun is very interesting and smart from a booking perspective. But, yeah, so Moxley comes down, and then Gallows and Anderson come out, beat down Moxley, and then the roster tries to get in to help him. They get beat down. Eventually, the Bucks come in, and they're like, hey, what's going on? And then reluctantly, after the other three throw the two sweet up, they do it, and the show ends. And like, what a great, I've been talking about constantly. I say it all the time. Like, AEW needs more cliffhanger endings. They need more Nitro style or peak Attitude Era. What's going to happen next week? We're out of time, folks. Oh, cameras are rolling, tape machines are rolling. That they need more of that kind of stuff. And this was perfect. This is like classic. I gotta see next week. I gotta see what's happening next. So this is our next big story beat, right? So Moxley's knocked down. The AEW roster was just laid out. It reminded me of like Hall and Nash coming in and like smashing everybody in on Nitro. The way they were just taking everybody else. And granted, it's like Brian Pillman Jr. and Griff Garrison and stuff. It wasn't like a bunch of top guys, but Moxley was beaten down in the center of the ring, so there's that. But strong heels. Hey, strong heels sell in wrestling, and it's like it's what it's predicated on, at least in American wrestling. So I thought this ending was great. I thought NXT had a loaded show. They had their Finn Balor Kyle O'Reilly main event for the title, and I think like AEW lucked out on this. I really do, because NXT had this like loaded show, and AEW had a big show in too. But I think NXT may have won the ratings battle today or Wednesday had the events at the United States Capitol not happened. And then, like, obviously no one was watching wrestling. I mean, I watch wrestling, but it was hard to concentrate with that situation going on. So, like, the ratings were down a ton. I think if that hadn't have happened, I think NXT may have had a good chance of winning. But now what's going to happen is AEW had the better show-ending angle. And show-ending angles are what make people watch next week. Remember when Sting showed up and you and I talked about it and we're like, wow, there's a big rating. But the key is it big next week? And it was bigger. It was like a 0.42 or 0.45. I can't remember what it was, but it was bigger.
Yeah.
And the reason was because people heard about Sting, and then they saw and they heard about the fallout to the Omega Moxley thing. So all that stuff led to a bigger second week. So like I think you're going to see another big week. I mean, this wasn't a big week, obviously, but like you're going to see a big one next week because people are talking about this like Bullet Club or Elite or whatever this group is, their reunion next week. So I think in a weird way, AEW dodged a bullet.
Yeah, and the weird thing about NXT, and this is unfortunately has been their typical playbook since the very beginning of the Wednesday Night Wars, quote unquote. They deliver pay-per-view quality matches, and that's what they do. Pay-per-view quality. Yep. It's got to feel like a takeover. And then it's like, great matches, great action, and then by the end of it, it's like, okay, now what? And you don't know where anything's going, and it feels like everything's just got to reset next week, whereas AEW, we've got organic storylines that we have to follow week to week, and that's a lot more exciting.
Yeah, I mean, part of me, like, and it's funny because, like, everybody's always, when people are, like, WWE fans, they're like, oh, AEW is, like, this indie wrestling and yada. I'm like, dude, WWE is indie wrestling. WWE is, like, random guys who just fight each other. Like, AEW and, like, classic territory wrestling is, like, hey, here's this guy, and, like, I mean, look at, I'll get into how this connects to AEW and NXT, but look at Triple H, Steve Austin, and Mankind in 1996, and then look at them in 2000 or 99 or whatever, 3 years or 4 years, whatever you want to do. Triple H goes from a Connecticut blue blood to the degenerate lackey to the world champion to the leader degenerate guy to a corporate sellout to this like psycho, like ripped, like killer champion of the company. Steve Austin goes from boring technician to psychotic redneck to blue collar champion and rebel against the boss. Mankind goes from like crazy basement dweller to man with multiple personalities to lovable like heart of the WWF in like 3 years. Like, can anyone name me a character in WWE in 3 or 4 years in like recent WWE that has made any kind of like character growth like that? I mean, the best you can do is maybe like 2013 to 2017 Seth Rollins. That's like probably it.
The answer I was going to give, the closest that I've seen in recent years was Becky Lynch. Where she started off as kind of a bland baby face, then she turned heel, and that led her to becoming like the coolest baby face on the roster, oddly enough.
Yeah, but so I thought you were going to go farther back. I thought you were going to go from like NXT to like that because like I mean that's a heel / face turn, that yes, her character changed, but like it's not the evolution that we saw of like Austin and Michaels and Brett and Rock and Mankind and Triple H and Undertaker and all these characters that like, God, look at people from 1996 to 2000 and look at the change that happened in that time period. That is 4 years. That feels like a lifetime if you look at those two different products. And then if you look at wrestling now, like you could look at 2020 or 2021 and look at 2017. It's the same fucking show. It's like nothing's changed, and it's because of lack of competition. It's because there's less movement. It's because they have too many guys and they don't like know what to do with them. And like it is what it is. Like back then, people could go to WCW or come from WCW, and there was movement in the wrestling world. When WWE like basically ate everybody else, there was like nowhere for anybody to go. So they were just like, I guess I'll just stay here, and like there's no trajectory or anything.
Yeah, and I've made this point before, but I encourage people, like, look at what wrestling was like in 1990, whether WCW or WWE, watch either one, And then you look at where wrestling was in like one show each year after that. There is a distinct evolution from year to year throughout the entire decade of the 90s. From like 2000 on to today, it feels like the WWE, it's basically been the same product. The names will change and talents get cycled out, but the overall presentation has not changed all that much.
For 20 years, yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed. So what the hell was I talking about? Oh yeah. So what AEW is doing, for the most part, is you're seeing characters that are characters, and you're seeing stories that evolve over time and lead into the next thing. Chris Jericho gets there. He's this like crazy old guy, and he wins the title. Then he forms his inner circle. Then he holds the title. They help him keep it. Then this young guy infiltrates the inner circle, and he's slowly starting to like a virus infect it. Like, that's a lot of progression. That's a logical storyline that's happened with Chris Jericho from point A to point B to point C. You can see where it goes, and it makes sense. In the same way that Steve Austin goes from the ringmaster to enemy of Mr. McMahon. The same way that Triple H goes from Blue Blood to the Game. Like, there is a logical story flow that makes sense. Cody Rhodes, Darby Allin, those guys, look at where they started when this show started. Look at where they are now. That makes sense. Like, the Young Bucks, look at where Kenny is. Look at where Hangman is. Like, these are characters that are evolving and changing, and there's a plan. And, I mean, like, I don't mean to say AEW is like super special about this. Like, it's just that WWE doesn't do this, and they're the main American company. Companies used to do this all the time. WWE used to do it. WCW did it. Most places, if you look at booking from the old days, unless it was like garbage WCW in 99 and 2000, or like AWA during like the late 80s or stuff, it's like just normal good booking. And like, we've been so indoctrinated for years with WWE that we're like, well, I guess the show opens with this thing, and then we find out what the main event is, and then they fight or something.
Well, the whole Teddy Long thing is an example of that. The fact that we're going to have a tag team match, playa, and
The Undertaker.
Those things became like memes in the wrestling community, and that speaks to just how repetitive their show has been for so long, that innocuous stuff like that becomes like, oh, we see that every single week, to the point where it becomes a joke.
Yeah. So it was a good AEW. Is that what we were talking about?
Yeah, I did have some disappointments with the show. And I know Tony Khan apparently doesn't like doing DQs, but I really felt like with that women's match, that was a perfect opportunity to protect Abaddon a little bit and do a DQ, because having her get beat kind of killed her.
I know. He listens to Meltzer so much, and Meltzer's mother and father were raped by a disqualification when he was younger, so he just hates DQs so much. Like, I've never seen somebody that's like so fucking offended by DQs. Like, listen, I'm not suggesting you have a DQ every main event like WCW did. I'm not suggesting you have them once a show, but like every once in a while, it's okay to remind people the rules exist. And like, you can do it. Like, I like that you get like definitive like stuff. Like, I think that's good. But like, you can fucking do it once in a while. It's okay. Like, and it's just, yeah.
I wonder if WCW is influencing that decision for him to do that, because it's like, God, every other match.
I know. Well, it's insane, because I'm in June '98 now with my Monday Night Wars rewatch, and like, holy shit! Like, I mean, it's not as bad as it was from like, I would say, October to like March, like where every show would be a DQ, and it just, the NWO just runs out and they just attack somebody. You're like, oh, what the fuck was the point of this? Like, that's like insane and maddening, and it's so frustrating to watch. But I'm like, AEW isn't like that. They don't do that. You don't need to worry about that happening, but you can have a DQ every once in a while. It's okay. Like, remind people the rules happen, because it's the same shit with the tag ropes. Like JR's an asshole because he like calls people out on his podcast about doing stupid spots, but he's right about it. Like, the things he's saying are right. Like, JR's so the problem with JR is he needs to not say that on his podcast. He needs to say that to them in the back, because that's the professional thing to do. You say, "Hey guys, this spot kind of like makes no sense, and like if you're not like, if the tag ropes and like getting out of the ring doesn't mean anything, then why don't you just stay in the ring and just beat the shit out of it? Like, what does it matter? You know, like, those are things that are correct, but he needs to say them. But like, you know, if there's like, if you can just do whatever, then like, okay, just take a bat to the ring and beat the shit out of a guy. Like, who cares? Like, you know, and they're better. They're a lot better. Like, do you remember when AEW started and it was like people would do like everybody would interfere so they could get their spots in? Like, Christopher Daniels would like jump in, and Marco Stunt would do all this stuff, and referees would like see it and they'd have to pretend like it was really bad. Do you remember how bad it was?
Oh yeah, the first like 2 months or so, it had gotten pretty ridiculous.
And they were like, somebody must have been like, we need to stop doing this indie shit. And like it's been like really good. I haven't even noticed it for like a while. In fact, that's not even what you're saying. You're saying protect Abaddon, not like, oh, the rest look like idiots.
Yeah, absolutely. Abaddon is a character with potential in a division that desperately needs characters with potential.
Yeah.
And I think having her get beat kind of kills that monster image. Because honestly, I look at her, it's like, you know, if you want to have like a female Undertaker circa 91, that might be a good one to go with. She seemed to strike a chord when she first came on board, and she's an instant attention getter. And I think having her get beat just to continue Sheeta's run, which seems aimless, really, at this point.
It does. I like Sheeta. I think she's cool, but it is just endless title run that just...
She's Taka Michinoku with the light heavyweight title, baby.
She kind of is, yeah.
Yeah. You know, just...
I mean, it's a matter of time before Britt gets it. Let's, like, you know...
Mm-hmm.
We'll get there. But, like, I mean, hell, that division was terrible forever. And, like, it had nobody in it. And now it's, like, looking pretty good. Like, it's, like... like Britt has like compared to last year, Britt is like insanely great. I mean, actually, the last year around this time she was starting her heel turn, so you know, Britt's in great shape now. Big Swole has come a long way. They're gonna eventually get back Chris Statlander. They had to let go Sadie Gibbs, I think, but she, like, once COVID's over, she can come back. Sheeta's good. Abaddon. They've got Thunder Rosa, kind of. They've got Eva Lise. Like, it's in a lot better shape than it was a year ago. A lot better.
Yeah, they have the talents. It's just a matter of putting all the puzzle pieces together and making it work.
You got to build the talent, and like, it's like, I have faith that they're going to do that because they've done it consistently. Like, they've improved in almost every area. We talked about, like, oh, they were doing all this indie shit and like weird people weren't getting DQ'd and refs were seeing outside interference, and they fixed that. And like, oh, they needed to build up younger stars, and they did that. You've got Darby Allin, you've got MJF, you've got Wardlow, you've got Hangman rebuilt, you've got Sammy, you know, you've got these guys. So like, they're like, oh, we need more cliffhanger endings. They're doing that. They're improving. Like, this, remember, this company's been around like as a functioning weekly television show for a year and a half. Like, they don't have the experience in production or writing or booking or anything that WWE does, and they're constantly improving with it. So like, so far, like, unlike WWE where you're like, let's see where it goes. Like, you know where it goes with WWE. It goes somewhere shitty. With AEW, it like can actually go somewhere good because you haven't been burned by years and years of like garbage.
Yeah, absolutely. And they've got something here with this Bullet Club stuff, so I definitely want to see where it goes.
Yeah. Ooh, sorry, I'm yawning. And I guess that means it's time for us to finish up.
All right, sounds good.
All right, so, ladies and gents, thank you for joining us. Make sure to comment, make sure to like, subscribe, share, all those fun things. Helps us out, keeps us going, and we do appreciate it. But for myself and for my partner, Patrick Kelly, we are...
signing off.